Hi, my name is Professor Bradley Gardner, and I'm talking to you from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at Temple University, where I'm in the Department of Geography and Urban Studies. I'm also a professor in the School of Professional Studies in the General Education Department and the Communication and Culture Department. I'm here to talk to you today about my course, Geography 301. I've been teaching it for 6 years. It has evolved quite a bit, and I have been influential in the design of it as well. So I'm going to do two main things today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the content of the class, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the format of the class. Okay, so migration. I think it kind of sells itself. It's really exciting, and I think we all have some experience with it. And I'll start by telling a story. My great-grandparents came from Central and Eastern Europe. They were Jews that came from Hungary. They were Jews that came from Russia, and they were Jews that came from Poland. And initially they settled in New York on the Lower East Side and in Queens, in some cases Brooklyn, but my grandparents, they of both sides moved to the Bronx. And that's kind of my recent ancestral history. And what's great is I think everyone has their own story to tell about migration. Some people go back a few generations, other people are migrants ourselves, and some of you actually are expats living in other places. So we all can kind of understand what it's like to move from one place to another. And even if we haven't, we have family that has, okay, even on an international scale. This experience is really important. It's going to help us in the course. One of the first things I ask you to do is to say to the class, this is my migration experience. Okay, so I think it's great from that aspect. Okay, so what are we going to do in the class? The class is kind of a critical view of migration to the United States, and it's a historical perspective. We go back to the 1400s and we move back up to the present. It's in a series of learning units that we do every 2 weeks. Okay, so what we do is we start out with slavery. We study the Middle Passage, right? How Africans became African Americans. We also take a look at indigenous migration before Europeans got here and see what happened to that population once Europeans arrived. We specifically look at Christopher Columbus and Hispaniola and what happened there. Next, we move to the Great Migration. We fast forward in history a little bit. We only have so much time in the course. And we look at the Great Migration, which is a very large migration of African Americans north in the late 19th century and to some degree in the early 20th century. We see how Jim Crow affected people's migration to move north. Next, we move on to something that I call forced migration or ghettoization. And we study a couple of cases here. One of them is Japanese internment. If you're not familiar with it, I think you should definitely take the class. It is, basically what happened is during World War II, the United States saw all Japanese Americans as a threat, and they put them in concentration camps. This is kind of a dark chapter of United States history. What we also do is we take a look at the formation of Chinatowns, right? Legally, this is where Chinese folks had to stay when they came to the United States on the West Coast. So we look at the formation of those as well, and we see the Trail of Tears, which is the forced migration of indigenous people from their traditional homelands to the west side of the Mississippi, and that would be to Oklahoma, etc. Okay, from there we move to European migrants. And we move to New York as a geography, which is the first time we do that in the course. We specifically are looking at New York, Chicago as well. But we see Irish, Italians, and Jews, how they came to the United States, what kind of settlements they had in their experience in the United States, specifically with race. Finally, in the last 2 weeks, we get to the kind of more current stuff, and we look at Asian migrants and African migrants and migrants from Latin America, specifically after 1965, which changed migration a bit to this country, who could come and who couldn't. So that'll be interesting. We'll study how communication and transportation technology has changed the face of migration. And finally, we'll do something about current events, okay? What's important in the news right now. For example, we might look at something from Arizona, but the content depends on what's going on in the world. Okay, now the format. We are entirely, almost exclusively in ePortfolio. Are you familiar with ePortfolio? Great. If you're not, no problem. Me and the ePortfolio staff will certainly help you get adjusted to using it, and we're going to use the first couple of weeks to do this. So please don't freak out about it. You should really join the class, even if you're not familiar with ePortfolio. Participation will also take place in ePortfolio. It's kind of cool because you get to customize your pages and your assignments and put them together, and you have a chance to comment on other people's pages and assignments. So it's almost like you're inviting people into your home and you're visiting their homes. So we have readings the class is on a 2-week schedule. So you have readings and you have an assignment to complete that has to do with those readings, something like persuade a friend, make an argument, something like that. So the assignments are kind of fun. And you'll be writing a final paper, but unlike most classes, you won't be doing it all at once. You'll be doing it slowly every week. Your task every week will be to complete a different part of the final paper. And what that will mean is I'll give you feedback every week so we can work on it and it gets shaped by me and you over the course of the semester. A little bit easier, I think, than doing the whole thing at the same time at the end of the semester. And finally, we have a landscape assignment, and this is where we take things that we've learned from the class, concepts that we've learned from the class, and we apply them to a real situation. We do a landscape study. Students get really creative with this. They take pictures, and they have a lot of fun with it, and I think you will too. Okay, I think that's probably about it. And one last thing, and this is really important, is there's no textbook, so you don't have to buy a textbook. Okay, so my name is Professor Bradley Gardner. My email is bgardner@gc.cuny.edu. That's bgardner@gc.cuny.edu. Email me if you have any questions about the course. I will be happy to answer them. Okay, I hope to see you soon.